what will it take to introduce leadership as a compulsory course in school?
We have to change the way we think, the mindset of who we are as people.
Leadership is a journey, and we are all constantly going to be on that journey.
When you think about the women's club or the women's guide, it's not just the gathering, right? But it's also the relationships that are built.
We have to just keep on consciously pulling and pushing and breaking down every single door and insisting that there are women that know it
and should be
at the table.
In a rapidly changing world, the transmission of wisdom, experience, networks, and guidance from peer to peer or one generation to the next is invaluable. This is the main idea behind the age-old boys club. Now, we're not in any way recommending that we replicate the boys club. Perhaps women can leverage this idea and actually build a supportive system that empowers women to navigate their paths to leadership with confidence and resilience. Welcome to the Leading Woman Show, Governance Series, brought to you by our sponsors, the National Endowment for Democracy and Luminate. My name is Abosede Jojagan, and today we will discuss Girls Guide Women's Club. Reports from the Lean In organization shows that 83% of women who have had a mentor attribute their career advancement to the guidance and support that they have received, proving that women could immensely benefit from an ecosystem that prioritizes knowledge sharing. Joining us today to discuss the benefits of sponsorship, intergenerational partnerships, and creating a culture of deliberate mentorship. Our first guest is Osayi Alile. She is the Chief Executive Officer of the Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation and currently serves as a board member of several organizations globally, including the Women in Management, Business and Public Service, WIMBIZ, and the World Economic Forum. Our next guest is Aishat Agbaje Ukwade, who played a critical role in the creation of a fellowship program called the Latif Jakonde Leadership Academy, where she now serves as the Executive Secretary. The Academy offers mentorship to the next generation of young Nigerian leaders. And our final guest for today is Irogama Ugweifun. She's the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Stars Investment Company Limited. She was recently recognized as the Peak Performing Woman of the Year. She's an entrepreneur, and we're really glad to have her today. Now, we cannot wait to dive into this conversation, but we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. So we're diving into the conversation with our guest. Welcome, everyone. Really delighted to have you all here. So, Osayi, I want to start with you.
Oh, gosh.
How did your early life's experiences and education shape your preparation for leadership and guide you to the point that you are today?
Okay. I mean, they do help. I mean, of course, we all know that leadership is a journey. It's not something that you get at a season in your life. It's a continuous process. But I always tell people that I was fortunate enough to be brought up in a home that my parents, I actually didn't even know the difference between male or female till I left the confines of my home and got into university. because my father didn't care. We're 7 girls and a boy, and he didn't care what the difference was. He just expected that everybody should just have some value system and just go with it. So that really did help, because we were always put in charge of different things across, wherever it was necessary. But I do understand that some people don't have that benefit. So I know it's a conversation we're going to have later. But it does help when the home front is great. And when people talk about home front, I don't even always mean that your parents are there. You must have a father and a mother and all that. But in terms of you have someone that you can rely on and you can talk to, and if some people have it in their own religious setting in church or in the mosque, and so, or they have an auntie that it's great. And I think those things, they do help. They help to guide you. They help to give you things that you've never even heard, or give you opportunities that you might not be able to get on your own. And schools do help as well, I must say. And you always find one person, maybe it's a drama teacher or an art teacher or a senior in class that tells you, you know, you're more than this. And you might not accept it then, but in another 10 years, you say, you know, that person told me I'm more than this. And I feel that sometimes we don't always accept those things at the beginning stages, but later in life, it opens our eyes to say, yes, I know that I'm more than this. And I have the capacity to get there.
Amazing, amazing. And Irugama, let me come to you. What are some of those childhood experiences, and, you know, whether it was education, right, within the school system, that really shaped your leadership journey and where you are?
Well, I think for me, it would be the representation I had at home or in my family. My mom was a career woman, and had always been. So my stepmom was as well. My aunties were, they were entrepreneurs. My grandma was a construction person. She was building houses by herself, like going to sites. So I think the women around me, you know, who influenced me growing up, just sort of showed me that there were no limitations, right? But it also they also showed me that it wasn't easy, right? So I knew from an early age that it wouldn't be a walk in the park to be a leader as a woman, because I could see their struggles. I could see how they had to go the extra mile, especially from my mom's journey, you know, NNPC, trying to rise through the ranks, you know, in relation to her male counterparts. So I was privileged to some of the struggles and the challenges that she faced. So I knew that there will be challenges, but it wasn't impossible. So I never saw it as something I couldn't aspire for.
Right.
So the women around me, I think it'll help to shape that. And then, of course, in school, I think school sort of, with the prefect, you know, the prefect system, I think it kind of just prepares both male and female, or it should. I guess that's the premise of it, to give you the opportunity from junior secondary, where you become a prefect in junior secondary, and then you go to senior secondary and you're able to become a prefect as well, to sort of take charge, and we used to form groups in school, and there had to be a team lead. And you had to earn that position to be a team lead, right? From your character to your academic performance, you know, and then just your likability. So I think that so that exposure in school, and then of course the representation that I was getting at home, helped me imagine that I could be. But to be honest,
aspire as well.
But to be honest, I didn't really aspire.
It just showed you a picture.
Exactly. So once the opportunity presented itself in the future, I didn't have limitations in my mind.
I hear you.
I could seize it.
Could
I
grab
could
it.
step into it. I could desire it without feeling like I'm inadequate, or is this for me, or it's for someone else. Because those biases had been worked on.
And yes, they have been deconstructed in your mind.
And my stepmom was a pastor. So even from a religious standpoint, I could see a representation of a woman who could lead a church, you know, lead congregation, who could step out and sort of just be in front, despite the fact that we were in the kind of society that we were.
That would frown at that. Brilliant. Aishat, let's come to you. What are those experiences that shaped your journey?
So it's so interesting for me because I didn't have it on their own front or educational system.
Interesting.
And if I did, I probably would not have recognized it. Because I think also recognition is another old bargain in itself. So what I did, I went out to search for it. And I searched for it I started by volunteering a lot. So I started volunteering from the religious angle in church. I got also traveling. So I was in the UK then. I joined a program with DFID where I become a peer educator. So I spent a lot of time in Tanzania, 6 months in Tanzania, actually just teaching career employability skills to my own peers. So I started learning it from there. And I started learning it from the little things I was doing at home, which is paying the bills, managing the home front for myself, and also just doing the right things to get to where I need to get to.
Right.
So I had to learn it from myself. And I think a lot of people go through that, whereby you have to learn it for yourself. And where people struggle is, what do I do?
Exactly.
So
What's that pathway?
Yeah, what's that pathway? So I had to go out. I started searching for mentors until I had to say, stop. It was so bad. So I had to find it. And volunteering just
Was your pathway.
it was my pathway.
So there was a yearning, and volunteering then
Yes.
created a pathway for
Yes.
expression.
Yes.
That's brilliant. Osai, do you see the benefits, as I said in my intro, of a women's club that serves as a girl's guide? What does that look like?
Because I'm an advocate for women, I always say yes. I mean, I've been in so many women's club for years, so and I've seen the benefits for me. So I would say yes. It does have its own platform,
Yes.
but I'm also an advocate now for getting the other side
Right.
to advocate for us as women
Yes,
as well.
male allies.
I'm a pusher for all men, come and sit down,
Yes.
talk to us. What do we need to do?
Right.
How do they as men advocate for us as girls or us as women?
women.
Yeah, but there is a platform for the the Girls Guide, Women's
Yes.
Club. I mean, I've been in Wimbis for 20 something years, and I know the benefits it brought to me as a person, and the growth I saw, and then the things I also did not want to be. It shows you the good and the bad, and so I mean, it's opened a lot of doors that I would not necessarily have opened or even had noticed that they were there in the first place. So I feel that I'm going back to what I said. I think as women, as girls, as human beings, which you have to first of all know who you are as a person. The journey of knowing yourself too is never concluded.
journey.
Yes, if I'm just about to start another one in my own life now, so it's never concluded. So, but if you kind of know who you are, then you know what platform you need at that particular time.
Right.
And then that platform is what you use. So people say, oh, I'm not a girl kind of person. It doesn't matter. There's always something to benefit from there.
yes.
So when you go into that place, you say, what am I looking for?
Right.
Or what should I avoid? And then you do that. But then the guys, I also feel that we as women must bring in the men too and get them to sit on the table with us and say, okay, this is what the issues are. You might not see it that way because you are not of our gender, but you have daughters, you have sisters, you have mothers, and this is what they've been going through. So if you do open your eyes, you can see it.
Right. It's all around you.
Yes, you must be able to see it. And even I'm always saying to us now that, I mean, we do complain a lot about these things, but we're also asking ourselves, who are raising these people? So you complain, but who are raising them? Of course, their fathers are there, the men are there, but we as women, we must raise them to be better people. We must talk to our brothers. We must, I know girls and fathers, you must be able to sit down with your father and say, what are you doing?
Yes.
I mean, I can see the way you're speaking to this lady in your office. It's not right.
Right.
I'm your daughter. I don't want you to speak to me like that.
I don't want, and you would not be happy if I'm spoken
Yes, I'm spoken to like that. And then we also talk to our sons. And you can't sit down and say, oh, they're bad. They're all bad. But I mean, they are your sons at home as well. So we have to also stand up. And I think so all the clubs are necessary.
Right. So boys club,
Boys club,
girls club,
the
joint
men's club,
clubs.
joint clubs. But I will not say I will not advocate for a girls club or a women's club. I think they're all inclusive.
That's interesting. And I feel like the word recognition, that was so powerful where you said, because I hear that a lot. People are like, oh, I don't want to go into a women's club because, there's drama and stuff. But the issue is when you have recognition and you know exactly what it is that you're looking to benefit, then it changes how you relate with whatever platform is available. Irogama, what would you say? What is the role of women guides? And have you had women guides on your journey?
I mean, if any woman stood and said, "Oh, I got here by myself," she's a liar.
Possible.
Definitely a liar. Someone definitely lifted you up. Someone created an opportunity. Someone mentioned your name in a room. Someone made a recommendation, made a referral. So when we think about the women's club or the women's guide, it's not just the gathering, right? But it's also the relationships that are built. Right, and that's how, and that's so. Like you could be in Wimbies, and Wimbies will not be in you. You know what I mean? You could be in Wimbies for 10 years, and you've had zero impact from being a part of Wimbies because you haven't understood how you leverage
To navigate,
the opportunities that come by being in an organization like Wimbies, right? And you haven't been able to rise above that bias you have in your mind. Just like we've made reference to of women, too much drama, I want to just do this on your own. But then you're going to go forward slower as opposed to how quickly you could have gotten. And I know how many rooms I have been able to step into by virtue of women who have mentioned my name, women who have met me and decided that they're going to be committed to my growth. And just supporting all that I stand for and giving me an opportunity to also support them, because that's the thing about the women's club too. We're very relational beings. So men are transactional, easy, just boom, boom, boom. But women, yes, we can transact, but there's also that relational bit of it that we like to enjoy. And that's just how we designed by God. So when you come into a women's club, you have to be ready to put in the work. But most of the time we come and just feel like, why can't we just transact? But we're not transactional. There has to be a relational. So that's why when you see most of the older women who are willing to mentor, they say to you, it's a two-way street.
Absolutely.
Right? They talk about the work. And once you hear the work, you just feel like, they just want to use me. But no, you have to understand the place of honor. You have to understand the place of oiling that relationship. And we're not about money. So we're not men.
It's not a deal.
It's not a deal, yeah. So it's also understanding that you build that relational skill set, and it takes work. And it takes intentionality.
I feel like you might have just saved many people who watch this and are wondering, why have I just not been able to break
Breaking,
through?
yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
We are relational beings.
We're relational.
and
Just recognizing that and going. So I advocate for Women's Club. I'm a Women in Energy Network. And for the oil and gas industry, for us, that's a very pivotal organization that just started 3 years ago. But we're trying to be really intentional about increasing the number of women who participate in the industry, because
it starts
really
from young women, even
so
in
we have a program
university.
for girls in STEM, starting from secondary school, university. So we even have a track to becoming a full member from your university, where you become a fresh graduate, seeking internships, things like that. So we're designing this to say, that's our women club, women's club in the industry, right? Where you can come in and we don't expect you to be perfect, but you can grow. And then there are women who will say, bend my back, climb on it, and let's, and move on to the next level.
That's amazing. I love that illustration.
Yes.
Aishat, I want to take it from a different angle, because you're a young woman who has risen pretty fast in terms of leadership. I mean, for young girls who are going to watch this and wondering, like you said, because I really agree with you that we probably have more people in the category who didn't have family, who didn't have education, who are trying to navigate their way by themselves. What would you say? Like, is there a club that they can join? Is there, what does it look like? And what was that for you?
Yeah. So for me, that starts with there isn't enough clubs.
I hear you.
So that's where it starts from. And with the political background or the political sector that I'm currently in, there's hardly any. Instead we're craving for it. We want it. We need it. So I think there's just not enough. And it's creating more platforms for you. That's why I love what you're doing here as well. It's creating more platforms for young girls. We don't have enough of that. And if they happen to be scared to join those clubs, check out the values. Check out the person leading it, what their values are, what they stand for. And then inside of you can be able to discern whether this is a path, I like the path they've gone through, and if I want to follow that path. So ultimately, I think we need more of it. much, much more with key values.
Right.
You shouldn't just have one or several, a lot more, because we're a population of how many people?
Right.
So just times that by something. We need major
I really appreciate that, because that's the same thing we say about religious institutions. People are like, we have too many, but I'm like, no, they're serving different audiences and different purposes.
Absolutely.
So I really like that perspective that we need more. And we shouldn't see that as a bad thing. We should actually see it as we're creating room for more inclusion and representation. Brilliant. I say there are girls and women, we face stereotypes. We know this. So you could have the aspiration, you could have the desire, you could have the ambition, but then you will meet roadblock. What are some of those challenges, and how can we sort of start to tackle those challenges so that we can really have more women and more young girls with the skills? Because as you said, it's funny that we don't groom the girls, but then when they become older, we expect them to have the skills, right? So how can we sort of navigate this complexity?
I mean, across board challenges will always be there. It's not something that even as we've all spoken, you hear a lot of the good. We've been able to overcome some things, but you also hear that, a lot of times people will not talk about the challenges and the failures and the issues that they deal with because they've done it in the back end. Except you know them, you might not know everything.
Right.
So don't always think to yourself, why am I the only one going through this? So that's one of the things I always tell people to overcome first. Once you get to a place where you say, it's not just about me. These things happen.
Right.
There are challenges, there are stereotypes. We live in a community and environment where we're still at the place where our society is very patriarchal. So that it's just where we are.
Right.
So it's there. So once it's there, it's easier for you to manage it because sometimes things happen. I go to meetings and something occurs. And I was giving an example that I walked into a place with a few colleagues before, and I was the president at that time. And nobody spoke to me, but I spoke to everyone. So I just walked up and went to say hello. So when they were like, okay, so can they say, oh, Presido, it's your turn. So these things happen. And I tend not to take it because if you start getting all worked up about it, they'll say that's how they always behave. So, and they were apologizing. I said, oh, these things occur, but let's just learn from it. So we must learn. We must also remember it's not just about you. And how you deal with it also opens the door for the next person coming. Does it make it easier for Iro to come in, for Aisha to come in, when they come for another meeting the next time. So you don't always think just me.
Exactly.
Yes, so let me deal with it, manage the situation so somebody else finds it easier. Yes. So it occurs. It happens. It's there. Even in families we have it.
Yes.
If you talk about going to different, even in my place, Edo, we have it. Women are not, some things that women just cannot speak. And I always go into the family space. I say, it can't work this way. I can speak anywhere else. Why can't I speak in my family home? So you have to find ways of breaking these things gradually, but also respecting
those values and what they stand
the people that have been there for years and the culture. I'm a proud Edo girl. I'm a proud Bini girl. I respect the culture, but there's some things I speak up for. So we have to continuously see how do we manage the situation. And of course, you have to respect the families as well. Yes, and say, okay, I go into a family setting, I know that my elders are there, so I know how to greet, I know what to do, I know how to manage the situation. But I'm one of the people that speak up and say, some things have to start breaking now. Hey, how old am I now? How many kids, start talking about it. My brother that is younger than me cannot always speak on my behalf. So there's some things that we have to gradually talk about. And so when I speak to young girls, I'm like, yes, I understand it can be very frustrating, especially now in how we see things. We want things to be done very fast, yes. But I'm also saying that let us also continuously work on it and then start talking to the back end, which is our brothers and because our brothers are the ones that sit in there and our sons and start talking to them about it because once they speak up, it's easy for you to walk into a room.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's a continuous process.
I really
yeah.
love what you shared there about being intentional, because when we internalize it, then it's almost like personal. And then you don't think of the collective,
Yeah.
right? And the collective doesn't benefit. But actually, when you sort of look at it as something that's just happening, not to you, right? But to us, then you can say, okay, how can I make it easier for the next person? I think that's really, really powerful. I mean, I just want to come to you on that one, because as you hear that, are you thinking to yourself, you know, there are some stereotypes that are just tough?
Yeah,
How much time have you got?
there's so many of them.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Okay, so just to touch on that point made by my darling auntie here, I have a quote in my office. It says, "I come as one, but I stand as 10,000." I represent, so when I'm speaking, I'm a representation of those that have come before me. I'm a representation of my ancestral line. I'm a representation of those that are currently fighting the good fight with me. And I'm a representation of those that would come after me. So when I speak from a place of confidence. I speak from a place of identity. And I tell you that I am representing a lot of people. And that 10,000 is also 1 million and 100 million.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of stereotypes to break. I experienced a lot. I'm in the political sector. I have to keep going back to them because they need to be, those stereotypes needs to be broken there, gong gong. That's where it starts from. So, and I've experienced quite a bit. And I remember the first job I got in the political setting before I became, so I've been a special assistant in Kaduna State before even coming to Lagos State. And I tried to get lots of jobs in the political setting with senators, governors. I was met with, let's talk about it, I was met with a lot of sexual abuse, sexual harassment. And it's enough to, at one point, I packed my bags and I said, I'm going back home to London. And I don't mind. But I did not stop. The next opportunity that I've seen that they've advertised, I am doing it at my lunch break. You know, just going and going and going. And something that helped me through that period was I understood who I was and I understood where I was going. And I will get there. It's not you that will take me there. I will get there, right? And what I realized is that those that want you, just keep doing what you're doing. Someone will see it eventually.
Yes.
And that happened to me quite often. Even when I'm met with a lot of backlash, just keep going. It works for someone. And it doesn't just work for a leader that matters. The person that matters will find you. And that has been my story and my progression in leadership and how I got to where keep being true to yourself. Know your values. Know what your deal breakers
Be
are.
consistent.
Be consistent at it. And
definitely
persevere.
something. And persevere. This is a perfect point to take a break. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. So, Irogama, I want to come to you. You were talking earlier about how, I mean, you're in the energy sector. I can't imagine what the barriers are there. But how can educational institutions, and maybe institutions like yours, as you were saying, start to really help young women, you know, on that pathway to leadership? What role can institutions play?
You know, when we were speaking earlier, all I kept hearing or I kept thinking about was all of this will just really be effectively not solved but helped if we just started from schools. You know, if it wasn't seen as an elective, leadership training, ethics, even work ethics, you know, some of the shaping of culture values that become really, really important skill sets as you get older. If we saw them as essentials in school, as part of the school curriculum,
Right.
as important as chemistry, so as important as arts, right? then I feel like the work will not be as much by the time you become an adult, struggling, looking for mentors, because you've already been given the building blocks.
Right.
So what will it take to introduce leadership as a compulsory course in school?
Right.
At every level. So in primary school at a really basic level, in secondary school at a more intermediary level, and then in university at a more advanced level. So that by the time I'm stepping into my place of work, I'm going for youth service, I'm not depending on my innate abilities to just be a
Figure it
natural leader
out.
or to just sort of
Yes.
emerge, right? But there are already some skill sets. There are already some foundation blocks that I have gotten that make my success a little bit surer, and easier, right? Especially if I don't have it in the home front.
Yes.
So you're not waiting for me
Yes,
to
yes,
encounter
yes.
it, for me to
Right.
search for it.
Right.
Like Aisha's
So you
actually-
democratize
it's
the
available. It
opportunity of
becomes
everybody
like
becoming a
mandatory.
leader.
So when I go in, I have a bit of clarity, and then I can say, okay, this is someone that I want to model after from what I have learned and what I have discovered about myself. I like this style of leadership, and I want to lean that because I even know that there are different styles of leadership. I know that there's different skill sets that I should have about being self-aware, discipline, etc. And then I know who can help me to sort of just reinforce those skill sets. So from school, what will it take? And this is just it's not a rhetoric question, it's an actual question.
an actual-
I'm throwing it out to whoever
how-
needs to answer it.
yeah.
What will it take? What sort of advocacy do we have to do to the school boards to see how do we incorporate that? And then now bringing it to like the clubs that exist. And I think that the clubs that do exist are doing a lot. If I go with Wimbies, for example, there's a lot of leadership programs, there's coaching, there's mentorship. They have mentorship programs that you can plug into.
Want to help get on boards, I
Yes,
know.
exactly.
Yes.
So those institutions are doing what they can as you already emerge as an adult, trying to shape. But we're saying before I get into the workplace, where I can now become a member, like because some of these institutions have criteria to become
Yes.
members. So if you haven't reached a particular point, you might not be able to become a member. So
Exactly.
from the school level, how do we sort of bring it? And then I kept thinking about the girls' guide. There's actually a girls' guide, right? Growing up, like the brownies, when you're young, the younger one is the brownies,
Yeah.
girls' brownies club,
Yeah.
and then, a bit maybe secondary school was the girls'
Which
guide.
were all designed, to
Yes.
your point, to kind of
Yes.
hone those leadership
Yes.
skills. But we don't see those things
anymore. The girls' guide, I don't think it exists. I don't think it
anymore.
exists anymore. But that I felt like was very pivotal for actually shaping young girls,
Absolutely.
non-partisan, non-technical
Religious,
skills,
religious,
it was just
exactly.
a really, really independent body that its sole aim was to build strong female leaders,
yeah.
right? So how
No,
do we get?
I mean,
how do we
you-
revive that?
Exactly. How do we revive that? That's really interesting. So, Osai, how can women intentionally, especially older women, intentionally support, mentor, and what I think we do less of, sponsor other younger women and even younger girls? Like, is it a real challenge for this to happen in a systemic fashion where the boys have figured it out, but we don't seem to have it all figured out?
It's happening. It's happening, but maybe not as much as we want and we need. But I know it's happening. I mean, even just me, I
We
know.
are all beneficiaries
Yes,
of it. That's the truth, yes.
So it does happen. The systemic way that we're looking at it is maybe what we need to think through. I think a few organizations do have. I don't want to go back to using Wimbies because
Whisker.
Whisker does.
Women in Successful Careers.
Leap Africa has done a lot of work in that regard. But as Aisha keeps on saying, it's not enough.
not enough.
It's not
We
enough.
need more.
We need more.
Because there are those barriers to entry that
Yes,
you mentioned, and I
yes.
saw Aisha nodding because there are criteria.
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
that eliminates.
Yes. No.
Not nearly.
Not elitist. Even Wimbies, we have the Big Sister program.
Yes.
And we go, now we've gone to all the states in Nigeria. And we go to only public schools. Yes. So it's not elitist in any way or form, but it's just not enough. It's not enough. And also, you must remember that this is coming in the last 1 or 2 generations.
That's true.
As you said, the men's club we've had for, I mean,
Centuries.
18 something,
Yes,
you know.
centuries.
So this is a new thing. So it's just beginning to take form. I mean, a lot of women that you see, maybe 2 generations before me, have always struggled on their own.
Sure.
So maybe in the last generation and mine, and you find people that are saying that, no, I've stood on the shoulder of other women, or all the men, you know, so it's new. So there are not many women that have, I mean, there's still a lot of industries that you don't find women.
Exactly.
So where are they? Who can?
And who can even serve that
Thank you.
purpose?
Who is going to champion that?
Right.
So we do still have those things that we're trying to pull. So even for us now, we're always like looking for industry areas that people don't normally talk about, and we bring out the women. So last year, this year we gave awards to women in the airspace, not pilots. Those that are in the towers
okay.
that started some, you know, those
Right.
women that you can never, when you hear that name, you say, who? You know, so because we want people to know that they do exist.
They exist.
And you hear one of the ladies said, I am still the only woman that has ever done this.
Wow.
So maybe they have 2 girls now that are going through the training, but they never graduate. So where do we find them? Who's going to? But we have to think about it. People that are sitting here that have gone through this, or have found one person, they have to continuously try their best. So you find out that we are kind of overwhelmed. So it's the
That's
same
the thing,
people
'cause
that
it's
they're
a few
calling.
people
Yes,
who are providing the support to a
you find out
million.
they keep on calling the same people, but we consciously have to, and that's where we have to be deliberate about,
Yes.
and begin to pull others out. I say, look, they called me to do this. You go and speak. I don't have to do it. I've done 3 this month. It's enough.
It's enough.
So then you tell. I know you invited me, but I have somebody else
That I think
is
would
just as
also-
brilliant,
yes.
and she's in this industry that you might not even know about. But I promise you, for you to call me,
That's amazing.
and so that's the way it needs to
intentionality.
be done. And you have to, I mean, I've had 3 other opportunities this month, and I've not sat, I didn't go, and they were all outside, some of them outside of the country. I said, this person is, and it's the same way I went for a strategy session this year that I will not, I never even knew it even happened. Someone called me to it. So it's always like, you have to pull. We have to just keep on consciously pulling and pushing and breaking down every single door,
Yeah.
and insisting that there are women that know it
And should be
at the table. And if we don't insist it, it will not happen.
I hear
It
you.
will happen.
I hear you loud and clear. And Aisha, that makes me want to come to politics. Because there are many places that we think it's difficult for women to get into, including maritime irogama. And I mean, we'll come back and talk a little bit about that, because there are just some rare places. But how do we really get more women into politics and governance? Like, why haven't we cracked the code after 7 election cycles?
So I can only talk from my own perspective, and as limited as that might be, it might not be everybody's piece of cake. Something that I have come across in politics is we can't move forward without also breaking the Queen Bee syndrome.
Elaborate.
So Queen Bee syndrome is basically a woman has gotten to the position of leadership all by herself. She's struggled. She's gone far. So she feels that you must also struggle to come. And it's not just women alone. It's just I'm not sure if it's a human thing, but we must learn how to break that first. And we find that women, from my experience, right, women that have really pushed myself that, be my mentor. When I've surpassed them, is wahala. So it's also Queen Bee syndrome. I see that a lot in politics as part of the effect.
Is that like a scarcity mindset? Where
It is. It's a scarcity mindset. Because you also, they've struggled to get to where they are.
struggled hard, not just
They struggled hard.
Yeah.
And they don't want you to have it necessarily easy.
No, they don't think you
They don't
should.
Yeah, that's it. They don't think you should. So what they do is they sort of pass that mindset to you. So we need to also look at that.
Maybe it's
first.
back to what Osai was saying, where they actually don't have the solutions, because so it's almost like this is the method I use.
They don't know how.
And this is what I can offer to you.
Yeah, they don't know how. They don't. So again, it's about perspective. So, but however, you always have that perspective. But the rule of law should have a part to play. Because we, as humans, we always have perspective. But the rule of law is what keeps us
So
in check.
legislation.
So legislation. So let's be intentional about our legislation. Then whatever the woman feels or is sentimental towards does not have any effect because you have something that has a lot more sovereignty than
Over
perspective.
over a group of people. So it helps us to shift behaviors and attitudes. which is what you're
Absolutely.
talking
So
about.
we need
And
to
all
just
of
be
a sudden,
intentional.
it's okay. So, and let's use the not too young to run bill, right?
Yes,
It was that you had to be 40 years old, pardon me,
Now
before
it's
you ran.
changed
Now
that.
you just have to be 25. So all of us just shifted. So you're not too young again. Okay, great.
And it's
And it
helped.
takes
And-
the
and it
burden.
helps.
It takes the burden off the woman. It takes I have to pull the overwhelmness of everything.
Right. So
takes
we
it
have more
off.
people getting there
Yeah.
in a way where they can actually
Yeah.
help.
And the
others.
men have to be intentional about it. The men in leadership have to be intentional about it.
This male allyship thing, I don't think we can escape it. So
We can't.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not.
So, I mean, as we start to wrap up, what I would like us to do is start thinking about solutions. And as you said, we throw it out there. Different people are going to watch this, and hopefully, people take different pieces. So, Sai, let's think about the different stages. I think one thing we've acknowledged is that leadership is a journey, and we are all constantly going to be on that journey. So, from a young girl, if you were to build a toolkit, right, for a young girl, a young woman who's going to go on this journey, what would be some of those things that you would say should be in this toolkit? Including networks, including mentorship, including, maybe advocacy to change laws. What should this whole makeup be?
I think we've all kind of thrown it in there, and I'll start from in terms of changing the curriculum and making sure, and that's the intentionality about policies and stuff like that as well. I mean, when we went to secondary school, I went to a federal secondary school, and I mean, till today, there are things that we learned that has not left our system. There's some values that was taught, and I think there was just a certain number of years that those things were so important. Even our school air, you say it and you have goosebumps on your skin. Even till today, I just sang it a few days ago at a friend's birthday. And so those things we have to kind of go back to. And if we can push those things back into the curriculum, because as we had mentioned, it's not everybody that gets it from home. So there's a mixture of human beings, and you must realize that we're all different. And so once you pull that in, that's fast. So the curriculum is there, it's helping. It might take you to maybe stage 1 or stage 2, but nothing too dramatic, yes. But at least it's somewhere at the back of your head. And then, of course, you start saying, okay, how do we go into the real world? And that's where the family comes into play as well. And when I mean family, I keep on insisting, not two parents sitting in a home. Family, my friend, my sister, my cousin. Someone that is there that can just tell you, that this is not going to work. How best? And we as human beings must begin to speak up more and just, trying to, help someone chart their course of life. And, that thing of Aisha mentioning the Queen Bee syndrome, it's very scary to me because it's one of those things I just can't phantom in my head. For me, when a person that I have worked with for 10, 15 years is doing 100% better than me, I can start crying because it just makes me so
good.
like, oh my goodness.
I've done something.
Oh Lord,
right.
I can't breathe.
One thing.
Under my watch.
Yes.
Like one thing.
In fact,
I did something.
all my people, my mentees know me. I'm always in awe. When I mention their name, like it's I'm thinking of them, I'm getting excited because it's just the way it's supposed to be. We can't just sit down and expect that, okay, they don't know better, but we know better. So we begin to make sure that we are not going to do the same thing that somebody else did to us.
Amen.
So that's another criteria we begin to. And then even if it's two of us in a room of 100 women, and we're saying our voices have to be louder,
Yes.
who we are as human beings have to be louder. The values we portray have to be louder. The ethics of who we are as people, authenticity of who we are.
Yes.
The same everywhere. The church, the house, everywhere. So, and it's the same way even if someone has helped me to raise my child and she comes to my home and she's doing better,
Exactly.
I'm excited, I'm happy. I mean, the nanny that took care of my child comes to with our grandchildren. I'm still excited. So we have to change the way we think, the mindset of who we are as people.
Mindset
We
shift.
can't live the way the community is. Yes, it's the way it is. Well, in my son's generation, going to still complain about the same community.
Exactly.
Let's do better, all of us together. And even as mothers, then we now move to another generation. As CEOs of an organization, we begin to do better by our staff,
Yes.
by the people that we regard as our colleagues. And we say, when I had a child, they didn't allow me to go on maternity leave.
So in my organization now, you cannot.
No, you have to do better. It wasn't the way it works for them, didn't work for me. So let me make sure that my people feel to themselves that they are women in an organization
That is led by
and they can speak. They are led by women. And it's the same way. And a young person comes in, open all the doors. So we have to just begin to throw all these things in and just do better as human beings than as women, than as men, than as fathers, as mothers, as and then begin to push that the policies, the legal structures begin to change. It has happened before now. Even in the banking sector, we knew how it was, and it changed.
Sustainable banking.
Now it's illegal that you must have a certain percentage of women on your board and in management. And it has made us see that we see it's
possible.
normal. It's a normal thing now.
Absolutely.
A few years ago, it wasn't normal to say a CEO as a woman.
Absolutely.
Now we see them a dime a dozen.
And it's normalized.
It's normalized.
And it has shifted our minds.
Completely. So
What
we
is
can do it across all the industry sector.
Absolutely.
We must speak. We just have to continue to speak
I
up.
love it. Thank you so much for building that toolkit. I mean, you put a lot of things in there. Irogama, what would be your final thoughts on what we put into this toolkit that really helps young women, young girls, and then, of course, people like yourselves who are young and in an industry where women are not a lot and a critical mass?
I think that Osayi has really, like you said,
She's dropped the mic.
she put a lot in there, and really has spoken our perspectives. But what happened to national orientation? Because all I'm thinking is that orientation where it's not just, we're in a world where it's so survivalist, so survivalist focused. Like it's me.
So individualistic
Yes.
as a
Individualism,
result.
yeah.
It's just all about me and what I want to get. I want to survive. It's about me. We're forgetting that my brother's keeper. Those were the sort of values that when she's talking about we grew up with. And all of that is sort of disintegrating.
Yeah.
And because it's disintegrating and literally disappearing, that's why we're here. Right. And that's why we're two in a room of 100 people having that mindset of no, now let's, for the collective, not just, what's my agenda. Right. So how do we change that perspective from an orientation standpoint, right? Where we start to reinforce those values, starting from the church, starting from, because at least if you don't go to school, you will
Go to church.
you go
You
mosque.
go to mosque.
This is like you will be exposed somehow to the words, right? And how are we going to sort of almost not brainwashing, but just sort of reminding people of how truly this is what it takes to be your brother's keeper or your sister's keeper. So that when you're in your circle of influence, I'm a firm believer of circles of influence. People feel like they need a big platform. I don't think you need a big platform. You're
Might
already
be
where
10
you are
people,
is a
might be
platform.
5 people.
Yes.
That your gate man and his daughter and his
start
son.
from there.
You start there. You see, you speak, you try to change the perspective. So don't wait till you have a microphone.
Right.
Start
100%.
at that point, right? And begin to exercise that. So even when we're talking about leadership, and this is just going to the young people out there, and this point of you don't need a microphone, it's really for the young people. Because we feel like we need to arrive. There's no arriving.
You need to have a lot of
It's a
followers.
journey till we die. We are on a constant journey. Because when you reach one point, you want more. And then you want to get to the next point, you want more. And then you want to get, so when do you really arrive? You will never arrive. More money,
death.
more problems. So you are moving and moving and moving. So if you're saying that this point where I am, I'm trekking but I'm a voice.
Yes.
Right? Or when I speak, people listen to me. So what am I doing with that voice that I have? What am I saying? How am I living? How am I acting with my siblings? I'm the oldest.
Yes.
The way that I act is how my siblings will follow. What am I doing about that? Like what I saying, it's very powerful because she has a lot of sisters.
Yes.
So when they listen to her, if she cowers
Yes.
and she keeps giving in, when she's not, she's absent and
They will
sisters
think
are
this
standing
is-
there. That's this normal. They will cower too.
Yeah.
But when they remember their sister, that she stands respectfully, but this one is not how we like it. They will also say respectfully, we don't like this
So
one.
that's a role model piece
Yes,
as well.
yes,
So I mean,
yes,
you,
yes.
you've
How do we-
called
how
that
do we-
out
how do we
very
get that?
strongly. Going beyond individualism
Yeah.
to the role model piece that doesn't only serve you but serves other people.
Yeah.
Aisha, what would be your final thought?
So they've literally just dropped the mic. Because they've said
Add
it.
small thing.
Yeah, they said it because it's really, you just start from where you are.
With
Because
what you have.
what you look like right now is what you look like when you get there. So you'll be a reflection. I always say Nigerians are a reflection of their leaders. What you are right now is what you look like. So if you don't have it in you right now, you won't have it in you when you get there. You just mask it. Right? So start from the little things. How do you treat your gate man? How do you treat your house help? How do you treat your assistants? And when I get into difficult situations, I'm always like, what should I do? What did my previous leader do? You know, start from there. Start from the little things. So in my current organization that I'm in, I lead a lot of young people. And I also lead quite a few civil servants, public servants. And grade level, you cannot enter that meeting because I'm higher than you, I'm more senior than you. I break it. I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. Everybody here will experience the same thing. Everybody here would have the same benefits. Now, if they leave my organization, my agency, and possibly redeploy to another ministry, they can spread that goodwill. Because they've seen a different version of leadership. You come into my office, it doesn't look like the average civil service office because it's fully empowered. You walk in, it's like a Google space. You walk in and the little things start to matter. And now, if I have a new staff that is as little as a clerk, I don't tell them before they tell them to join the meeting. They've understood it. And it's those little things that begin to shape their imagination.
Yeah.
And they start to spread it over time. And that's where I start from as a leader.
Amazing. Wow. Let's give them a round of applause. This has been wow. This has been such an amazing conversation. And I mean, for everyone who will listen to it, I hope that you don't just listen, but you actually act on some of the things that we talked about. We'll take a short break now, but when we come back, we'll go into our gaming segment called Misrepresented. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's time for our gaming segment, Misrepresented. Today, we'll be playing the A to Z game. The way this game would work, we'll invite participants to test their knowledge on the names of female leaders ranging from letters A to C. Representing Team A, we have Omolola and Trust. And representing Team B, we have Josiah and Charity. Now, if you are ready, let's play this game. Team A, can you give me the name of a female leader that starts with the letter A?
Amina Bello.
Amina Bello. Team B?
Aruma Uti.
All right. Now, Team A, can you give me the name of a leader that starts with the letter B?
Balarabe Adisa.
Balarabe Adisa. And Team B?
Bello Rashidat Tinubu.
Bello Rashidat.
Bello Aish. Bello.
All right, so we have 2 points for Team A and 1 point for Team B. And the final one. Can you give me a female leader whose name starts with the letter C?
Chimamanda.
Chimamanda Adichie. And Team B?
Jara Adamu.
All right, so on that note, it looks like Team A has 3 points and Team B has 1 point. Give them a round of applause. On this note, I'd like to thank our distinguished guest for a really, really enlightening and enriching conversation today. Thank you to Ms. Osai Alile. Thank you to Ms. Aisha Agbaje Okwade. And thank you to Irogama Ogweifun. We appreciate you for being part of this episode. And to our live audience, you have been simply amazing. Now, to our viewers watching today's episode, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us across all social media platforms as Will and Global. Like, share, and leave us a comment. And of course, remember that women's leadership can change everything, everywhere. See you next week.